Welcome to the series Organic Chemistry for Biohackers, and today's video is specifically about the bicarb blood buffer system, which is how your body uses carbonic anhydrase and a little bit of acid-base chemistry to tightly control blood pH so your blood is never becoming too acidic or too basic. In today's video, we are going to address what the frick even is blood, what changes blood pH, what even is the carbonic anhydrase bicarb blood buffer system, and then we're gonna go over respiratory compensation, which refers to how your body changes breath rate to literally change and control blood pH. Also, by the way, today's biohack, I've got on the V3 Energy Aid patch. This is literally a slow release of ginseng, guarana, green tea extract, and then vitamin B6 and B12. So it's like a slow release B vitamin energy supplement, and you just stick it on and it's super rockin'. So right into the video, part one, what the frick even is blood? Blood is like your body's super highway transport system. It is full of dissolved minerals, electrolytes, dissolved gases, red blood cells, white blood cells, so immune cells, amino acids, proteins, enzymes, fuel molecules like sugars and fatty acids, and hormones as well. Because blood is full of all these cells, all these biomolecules and enzymes and proteins, blood pH must be so tightly controlled because any deviations out of this healthy range will significantly impair protein and enzyme structure and function. So it is a huge priority for your body to control blood pH, and blood pH is maintained very tightly within the range of 7.35 to 7.45. So blood pH is pretty much neutral, but like a teensy bit basic. If blood becomes too basic, pH gets too high, you are now entering the state of blood alkalosis. This can cause things like severe muscle contraction and cramping. It's also going to change the way certain proteins and enzymes are functioning. It's going to cause a huge amount of cellular damage and just weird things to happen to the enzymes and proteins in your blood. Blood acidosis is when blood pH drops too low and blood becomes too acidic. In severe cases, this can cause coma and death, and on the way there, it's going to cause a huge amount of damage to red blood cells, immune cells in your blood vessels, and it is going to change and impair the function and structure of proteins and enzymes existing in your blood. Your body does such a good job at controlling blood pH, keeping it in that 7.35 to 7.45 range, and protecting against acidosis or alkalosis. And how your body does that is it uses the carbonic acid bicarb blood buffer system. So how does this even work? Your red blood cells have the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. What carbonic anhydrase does is it catalyzes the reaction of carbon dioxide plus water into carbonic acid. Recall that from my acid and base chemistry video, an acid is any molecule capable of dissociating and releasing free proton into solution. So see that carbonic acid here can go this way and dissociate into a free proton and a bicarb ion. When we do this reaction, we are kind of like making an acid. Going this way creates acidity in the blood. Both of these reactions are reversible. We can go forwards to create acid, or we can go backwards and absorb this acidic proton out of solution and end up with carbonic acid. This is how your body controls blood pH. It will run this way to increase acidity, and it will run this way to decrease acidity. I know it sounds funny saying like in some cases we want to increase acidity of the blood. That does not mean we want to make blood more acidic than 7.35. What it refers to is, in the case of blood becoming too basic, returning blood to that range of 7.35 to 7.45. So if blood pH increases too much, we want to run the reaction forwards to put more free proton into solution and restore that nice, healthy blood pH balance by decreasing the basicity by making it more acidic. The opposite is also true. If blood becomes too acidic, pH is too low and below 7.35, we are going to run this reaction in reverse and begin absorbing these free protons out of solution, bicarb plus free proton, into carbonic acid. When we run this reaction in reverse, we are taking these out of solution. Taking the proton out of solution increases the pH and brings us back into that balanced, healthy 7.35 to 7.45 pH range. In summary, carbonic anhydrase catalyzes the reaction of carbon dioxide plus H2O into carbonic acid. This part is spontaneous, and this part is influenced by the current status of blood pH. So if blood is too acidic, we must absorb the excess of protons out of solution and run the reaction this way to arrive at carbonic acid. If blood pH is too acidic, if blood pH is too basic, we must run the reaction this way to release more free proton into the blood and increase acidity and bring blood pH back into that healthy 7.35 to 7.45 range. If all of this stuff is starting to feel a little cray-cray and a little overwhelming, on my website, nutritionbyelsa.com, there is a complete set of notes for the entire series Organic Chemistry for Biohackers. And in there, you're gonna find useful slides and drawings and diagrams that I've created, all to complement this series. Part 3, what changes blood pH? Hyperventilation, dehydration, and different metabolic states. So like increased activity, if you're doing more exercise, blood might become a little more acidic because your mitochondria are producing more lactic acid. If you're on a keto diet or you enter ketoacidosis or diabetic ketoacidosis, it's literally called ketoacidosis. There are so many acidic ketones in your blood that blood acidity increases. So pH decreases, blood becomes too acidic. These are the 3 examples of what changes blood pH that we're going to go over right now. So let's start with hyperventilation. Hyperventilation is hyperventilation, excess breathing. And in the case of this excess breathing, we end up expelling more CO2 than is being produced by your active mitochondria. So because we are getting rid of excess CO2, carbon dioxide levels in the blood drop. When blood carbon dioxide drops, that screws up, it messes around with this equilibrium equation. Because now things become unbalanced. Because this is going down, this side of the reaction freaks out and they say like, oh my gosh, CO2 is way down over here. Let's help CO2 out, run the reaction this way, and start increasing blood CO2 to bring it back into healthy, balanced levels. When I say balanced, I'm referring to homeostatic range. So everything in your body has to maintain homeostasis, and this literally just means everything for optimal function and health must stay in balance. So when this reaction becomes unbalanced, we have to fix that. We have to restore balance. CO2 levels drop. To bring CO2 back to healthy levels, we run this reaction in reverse. When we run this reaction in reverse, if we're starting over here and we're taking these acidic protons out of solution to go this way, blood pH increases. Blood becomes more basic. We are removing acidic proton out of solution, blood becomes more basic. That's what happens when you hyperventilate. Blood becomes more basic. Next example, dehydration. Already in your blood, we established there are dissolved minerals, enzymes, proteins, amino acids, blah, 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 blah. All these things are existing dissolved in your blood. Some of these things are dissolved acids or things that can act as acids. When you are dehydrated, this is referring to the loss of water or the decrease of the fluid component of your blood. If the fluid component of your blood begins decreasing, by default, solute concentration is increasing. So we're not putting more solutes into blood. We're just removing water, and as a result, these solutes become more concentrated. Imagine you have 72 Skittles and you put them in like a huge fishbowl versus you have 72 Skittles and you put them in like a teensy little fishbowl. The teensy little bowl, the Skittles are much more concentrated versus in the huge bowl, the Skittles are just all over the place going crazy. The dehydration means that we are putting the Skittles from the big bowl into the teeny bowl, and this is increasing the Skittles concentration, increasing the concentration of dissolved solutes, minerals, amino acids, proteins, things in your blood are becoming more concentrated. As a result of this increased solute concentration, blood pH decreases and becomes more acidic. So when you are dehydrated, blood becomes slightly more acidic. If blood becomes more acidic, what we have to do now is run this reaction again. If blood becomes more acidic, what the blood bicarb buffer system does is it runs this reaction in reverse. There is too much acidity going on. This is too much. So to decrease this, we run this way. We use up the overabundance of this to make more of this. When we run the reaction this way, we are removing these free protons out of solution and we are bringing blood pH back into that homeostatic 7.35 to 7.4 ideal range. So if blood becomes too acidic, we run the reaction backwards. If we are hyperventilating and blood CO2 drops, again, we run this reaction backwards. But we are doing these things for two very different reasons. In the case of hyperventilation, blood CO2 drops and we must bring that blood CO2 back into healthy level. In the case of dehydration, blood solutes become too concentrated. As a result, blood becomes too basic and we gotta run this reaction in reverse to deal with this excess acid situation. Last example I'm gonna do is the example of metabolic acidosis. This is when, as a result of unusual metabolic activity, blood becomes far too acidic. This is so dangerous for cellular health and cellular function because as soon as acidity in blood, as soon as blood pH starts dropping out of that 7.35 lower range, so blood's becoming way too acidic, you are changing and impairing the function of red blood cells, immune cells, enzymes, proteins, and you are damaging the blood vessels in your body. This is not a good thing and it is very dangerous. It can result in coma and death. And like I said, your body is so good at controlling blood pH and keeping it in that 7.35 to 7.45 range. So if you're hearing like crazy wellness people say, you need to do an alkaline diet, don't eat acid foods, you need to have all these alkaline supplements and things for whatever purposes, if it was that easy for a bad diet to change blood pH, half of the US population would know by now. They would all be. So metabolic acidosis refers to when blood pH becomes too acidic as a result of metabolic activity. Keto diets, if you're entering ketoacidosis, when your body is producing a large amount of ketones, ketones are acidic and this can increase blood acidity. The other case is if you're doing so much anaerobic exercise, your muscle cells are doing a ton of glycolysis. As a byproduct of glycolysis, your muscle cells are producing lactic acid. Lactic acid enters your blood and it can slightly decrease pH, so it's increasing acidity. In my next series, Biochemistry for Biohackers, we will be talking all about glycolysis and all these metabolic things, and we will go into glycolysis and lactic acid in depth there, but that is for a future video. Respiratory compensation. Respiratory compensation refers to when your body detects changes in blood pH and it will start changing breath rate to combat these changes of pH. So let's figure this out. If blood becomes too basic, as in proton concentration is too low, what reaction are we favoring? Blood is too basic. There's not enough acidity, so we need to restore acidity. If blood becomes too basic, we are going to run the forwards reaction. There's too much basicity, we must restore acidity. This is our route to restoring acidity. Will you breathe more or breathe less? You will decrease breath rate. Decreased breath rate increases blood acidity, because if you are breathing less, you are ending up with more CO2. So this biases the reaction to go forwards. There's too much of this equilibrium reaction becomes imbalanced and we push the forwards reaction. When we are pushing the forwards reaction, we are adding more acidic protons to blood and we are increasing blood pH. So therefore, if blood becomes too basic and we must restore acidity, you will breathe less such that CO2 increases and we run forwards. If blood becomes too acidic, you will breathe more in order to decrease blood CO2 and favor this reaction, which takes the free proton out of solution and brings the pH back up into more basic range. If blood becomes too acidic, there's too much of this, you breathe more. We run this reaction to bring these acidic acids, these acidic protons out of solution. Yeah. That is respiratory compensation. This concludes today's video. If you got any value out of this video whatsoever, like, comment, subscribe, because it helps me invest more time, more resources, and more energy into these projects, which I love doing so much, and I hope you guys enjoy them too. If these are helping you in your studies, or you just enjoy these videos, let me know in the comments, give me your feedback, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. Have a lovely day.